Welcome back, friends, to Earth 981. We are continuing on my journey with how I started and maintained Genesis Enterprise. There has been a lot of changes since the last time we talked. One of the big things is now we're 10 years in the future since you were last here. Come and join me as we get back to my great-grandfather Fred's story. And here we have assigned our construction crew to build another track for Collins Coal Mine. We are in the process of adding another train to this very, very busy track. We're trying to keep up with demand, and right now I feel like our coal industry isn't really keeping up, so that is why we're going to add another train. It should be fine. We should be able to handle and cope with the supply issue that we're dealing with. Our biggest hurdle that we're dealing with right now is almost an identical thing to what a hurdle would be, and that is this bridge. We have to have the bridge. One, we'll explain it later, but there's a reason for the bridge, and hauling all this material over this bridge does put a very huge strain on our very babyish locomotives. So we'll be fixing that here in the near future. Right now we're just trying to get this line set up so that we're able to have dual trains, maybe even more, possibly in the near future. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I very much want two trains on both sides, just to give the constant supply that we need at Flathead Steel Mill. It is a very important production line that we have. As you can tell, as it goes under the bridge, that is the whole reason for the bridge. We'll get to that product line here in a bit, but yeah, as you can tell, that is one of the reasons why we had to build the bridge. With this new train coming online to Collins Coal Mine, we do need to get rid of our trucks that are driving there, for the simple fact of, one, it's an additional cost that we don't need, and it won't really serve us much benefit. It'll more or less just kind of make us lose money and not have a real benefit. So we decided to drop that whole division as far as Collins Coal Mine and go strictly to locomotive power. And I think that'll be beneficial to us in the long run. It will definitely cut our costs down, so I'm very happy on that. As we're just kind of waiting here to see how this new addition goes to the coal mine, I do want to give an example of kind of the problems that we're facing currently with this line and this bridge that we had to put in. And as you can tell, towards the top of that hill, or towards the top of that bridge, they do start to struggle hardcore. We're going max out at 16 miles an hour. Yeah, we're struggling hardcore. I believe these trains have top speeds of like 25 plus, maybe. So the fact that we're just barely getting a little over half is a problem. But for right now, with how much money we have, it will serve its purpose as far as the trains for right now, because we are getting product there, even as slow as they're going, faster than what we would have if we just kept the trucks. So we are moving in the right direction. We just need a little bit more time so we can boost up the speed in that direction. And here's my third, 1, 2, 3, maybe fourth train coming online. That's going to start picking up coal, dropping that off, obviously at Flathead Steel Mill. As you can tell there, we are having issues with our ore production, so we're going to need to bump that up just a little bit. I did send my contractors, and landscaper just doesn't seem like the right word, but our people that study the ground and whatnot, to Bridgeport to kind of get an idea of the lay of the land, because the next train station that we will be building is going to be between the quarry and the construction site for Two Sons. I feel like it's time to get that up and running. This is going to be the last train. We need to be setting this up. Now we're going to come over here to our bread production line. This is Genesis Bread Bakery. We did decide to buy that. We do have 3 boats in the line. I'm going to cut over here real quick. I just wanted to show you guys that we are about to pay off most of our loan and just kind of get to a nice $1 million loan, which is definitely a heck of a lot lower interest. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you guys that real quick. Jumping around a lot. And here's kind of a faster pace of the tool mill, or the Flathead Steel Mill, working at fast pace. And now we're going to go back to the food production and talk about that real quick. So we do have Snowball's farm across the river there. This is Napoleon's farm, and right now he's the newest one to be brought onto the loop of the production line. So that's why there's not really a whole lot of production going on. One, because to this farm, to him, he really hasn't seen the benefits of it being transported like it is by boat. So he's been a little bit hesitant on releasing some of his goods to us so that we are able to transport them to Teo's Whiskey Distillery, which is also, I mean, it's basically right next to Snowball's farm, and yeah, it's right there. So right now we have Snowball's farm that's right next to it, that's delivering wheat, and then over here we have where they are dropping off the food for Glendale. So our boats right now are getting paid every way, which is kind of very nice and very lucky for us. But once this production gets set up, I am guessing Napoleon will be a little bit more generous with the wheat that he drops off to us, allowing us to transport that to Teo's Whiskey Distillery. This is my first full boatload of food that is coming to Glendale, so we're going to kind of watch this and see how that goes and see how much money we get, because in all honesty, I really don't know. So we get paid a little less than $1 million. We got about $800,000 for that, which, I mean, you can't really complain about. So once again, we're gonna load up Napoleon's food, wheat, and then we're going to ship it over here to Teo's Whiskey Distillery and see how well that does. That should do fairly nicely. And like I said, the only long part is from the distillery to Genesis Bread plant, so we're not hurting all that bad with the production line, considering that we're dropping off about 100 barrels of whiskey at a time, and 1 barrel equals 2 bread, so we're not doing too shabby on that whole line, if I do say so myself. Here's kind of just a nice little broad view out. We're going to finish paying off that loan, so we just dropped $1 million and now we are debt free. So my contractors and construction crew have gotten back to me on the Two Sons quarry, and we now finally have a build plan as far as everything's concerned for connecting the quarry to the construction site. This should be a great additional to the profit that we are already creating. Over the course of the 10 years that you guys missed, there was a little bit of a feud that happened in Bridgeport as far as mafia related news, and Two Sons ended up really allegedly winning that. I don't know how you really keep people innocent, but anyway, allegedly they ended up winning the mafia war, the turf war, whatever that they had going on for the city of Bridgeport. So we are allowed to keep, supplying them with our services. It was very touch and go there for a minute, and it was getting a little bit dicey there in the city. I did end up having to replace a couple of my trucks because one, they got broken into, robbed, and vandalized. There was a little bit of looting that took place, so we were able to kind of profit off of that. I know that's bad to profit off of other people's misery, but we had to make money somehow, right? So now that turf war kind of ended, that was about 3 or 4 years of the 10 years that you guys missed. So you missed a little bit of excitement as far as Bridgeport's concerned, but now that turf war is over, everybody's back in business and moving forward with their lives, and also rebuilding some of the damages that were done to Bridgeport. We're going to now focus on getting our trains set up. We got the lines established as far as the tracks go, working on a few signals and electrical lines and whatnot to make sure that the trains don't crash. It's very important that they don't crash, because that is a very huge investment that would be lost if those trains did end up crashing. So we have our signals in. We built a depot for the trains so they're able to park when not being used, and we are now adding tracks, a track to the main line. We have been in contact with Charleston. It's a little bit further east of us currently, and it's across the lake over there that you can kind of see in the background. We've been in contact with them. There is a new construction company over there that we are trying to get their business. We just have to be able to supply them. The issue with supplying them is the trucks aren't meeting the demand that we're going to need to kind of help Two Sons expand. So before we get to Charleston, we have to kind of expand what we got right now and let them be able to meet the supply and demand that we're going to be asking of them. I didn't want to go with the big train cars yet, just for the simple fact of it's kind of a new line, and I wanted to make sure that the quarry could handle the new demand that I was going to be putting on it, because what we've learned in the past is that when we switch from car to train, there's a little bit of a supply boost, and that causes issues with the supplier. So there is going to be a little drop in the quarry just for that simple fact, but hopefully it shouldn't take more than maybe 2 or 3 months for them to pick it back up. I did establish this line so that we could have more than one train on it. We're going to need more than one train on it for the simple we have a good ratio with the stone to construction material. It's a 1-to-1, so we aren't going to have to worry about losing anything, but I did want to make sure that we were getting enough stone to the construction site to start amping that up. This is your first look at the quarry train going back and forth. It is picking up its first load. We had to kind of give it a second to make sure that it was established. I did want to do a ride along on this train, considering this is the first time that you guys have seen trains in our enterprise area level, and this is the one that we kind of showed you how we built it and how we connected everything. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a little ride along, show you the scenery and whatnot. I also wanted to do a test drive to see if I felt like this train would be strong enough and all that stuff to start implementing it over at Edgar's ore pit and Collins coal mine. And I felt like it was very successful. It did the job. It held its speed, and Two Sons was very happy when their first train came through. So yeah, we're moving right along. We're making good progress. I did want to add another train, so we kind of jumped forward a little bit to add a second train to make sure the first train was leaving the depot. That way they weren't going to run into each other, but they'd be on opposite sides. As we go back and kind of check out the I'm going to call it the food line, because that's pretty much what it's making. I have my boats nice and separated out so that therefore everybody's able to supply the docks with enough product so that all the boats will be full. We are just moderately supplying Glendale with food. I kind of wanted to not have a whole lot of trucks on this line for the simple fact of we're using boats, so that's probably in the top 2 of slowest transportation. It's probably the slowest transportation that we can get, but the benefits of using boats is it pays out a lot. So that was kind of my thinking there, and obviously we got this huge river, and I felt like it'd be cheaper to just buy boats than it would be to build everything up using trains and cars. So we are going to try to add a 4th boat to this line. I wasn't really quite sure where to put it in, and I'm pretty sure that putting it in this close to that boat coming into Napoleon's food storage was going to be a problem. Now that we were making some money, we went back over to the steel mill, and like I said, because we had such great success at Two Sons, I was like, we need to up our train game, because we're struggling here. And that's also kind of when I noticed at the I'm gonna call it the train dealership. I don't really know what the proper term is, but they also had bigger cars. So I was like, okay, we could buy less cars and be able to carry more, because with Edgar's ore pit, it's always been the distance. The distance is what's always been kind of the issue with him and how far we've had to travel, because the coal is obviously closer, so we're able to get more of it there. And we're just trying to find a nice even balance that will be able to allow us to basically have both of them keep up with each other. We're not trying to outdo one or the other. We just like a nice even balance. So obviously I wasn't able to buy both trains new cars, but I did buy some new cars for the other train until we get the profits to build them back up, because we did just buy 2 trains that were like $2 million a piece. So it was a big chunk, and yeah, we just spent like $10 million on 2 trains. Not just the trains alone, but like the cars and everything behind with that goes with them. So we're gonna have to give that a second to kind of build back up, and before we go out and add more cars to these lines. But I think for the time being, that will definitely help with the production line, because like I said, with each car we're pulling about 108 to each one of them. So hopefully that will help. As we're finishing up watching our line and hanging out with Tommy in Toulouse, I was gearing up to travel all the way to Denver to spend quite a few months there trying to set up a train line with them. That is going to be the next one that we set up. We already have a train going out between the John's Oil Well and Jackpot oil refinery, but that wasn't really going to cut it anymore. We kind of needed to up our game there. We had been focused too much on the west side of our planet, so that we needed to kind of come over to the east side and give these businesses and cities kind of our attention. So we're going to first start off with building a train station or train tracks from the Jackpot Oil Refinery to Jackpot Fuel Refinery. There's going to be more that goes into this, but for the time being, this is what we're focusing on, is getting the lines established. Now, there is another city above Denver, and it's going to be across the river, so we're probably also going to have to build a bridge, but I don't think we're going to have to worry about boats this close to the edge. So we're going to do it definitely the bridge style, but I need Jackpot to kind of start expanding as far as their fuel and oil refineries went. So that was the whole reason for the trains, is to start helping them expand, because right now they only had 1 train in, and it was from John to the oil refinery. So we still had cars or trucks running from the oil refinery to the fuel refinery and then into Denver, which wasn't necessarily ideal, and the trucks that we were using were also outdated, so that does present a little bit of a problem. I didn't want the train sharing a station, like a station platform. I wanted the oil to be going out on one station, and or the oil coming in on one station, and then the refined oil going out on another station. That way we don't have trains waiting for one to exit and one to enter, especially with ideas and already kind of set in motion to get new trains, or not new trains, but newer trains for the oil for John's Oil Well to the oil refinery. So we were wanting to make sure that nothing was really going to hinder this, and we could have a very constant motion going forward. We had to remember to connect the new train station that we built to the fuel refinery. That way that they could get their forklifts on and unload the trains as they came in. Because we had been making that mistake kind of before, not connecting the roads up. So we're having issues with trains not being able to be unloaded for that simple reason. And since we were doing all this construction with Jackpot, we decided that it was already in the works. We already had it planned out that we were going to add another train line to John's oil well, because we needed to get as much oil from his well to the refinery as possible. That way we could then start sending it to other cities. As we were going through the final little details and everything like that, and making sure all the I's and T's are crossed and dotted, we presented our opening to Jackpot. He thoroughly enjoyed what we had built, how it was looking, and the potential for the overall growth of money. We had a nice little celebration down in Denver, because this was basically the reopening of Jackpot fuel line. Even though John's the one that starts it and it starts with him, we're reopening it with new trains and also a new line. So we had a nice big party down in Denver celebrating the achievements and all that kind of fun jazz. Construction crews were now finishing up the electrical parts of the train, as far as putting signals in and making sure that two trains would be able to travel on the tracks and not collide with each other, because once again, that was a pretty big staple that I'd like to hit home with them. Making sure that the oil trains were going into the right depot and all that, we decided to test this out by actually buying a second train. And we wanted to buy that train and kind of get that established before we added the oil train, or the fuel oil refinery trains, just for we needed the stockpile of oil, because we were upgrading our tankers on the oil refinery run, so we needed as much train power and everything like that going into the oil refinery, because the way we built the oil refinery train, it wasn't going to have a problem keeping up with John's oil well. We ended up painting it into its orange colors and sending it on its way. All that was left to be done at this point was to reconstruct the truck driveline And we did that by building a road going from Denver to the Jackpot fuel refinery, just for the simple fact of it would alleviate a lot of unnecessary driving time for our trucks. We also put in a bus lane. The bus lane our trucks are able to use and not be encumbered by the residential people, the non-people that aren't working for my company. So that would definitely boost everything up. And at that point we did decide it was time to upgrade the trucks that we were using, because we were using seriously outdated equipment. So as those trucks start traveling into Denver, taking the long way around, just making sure that they know where Jackpot station's at, we're making sure that our train is delivering and stuff's coming in and is being stockpiled and ready for the trucks to be pick it up. At this time, my stay at Denver was coming to an end. This time I was kind of I wasn't as happy to leave. I was very impressed with the work that my construction company did as far as the train line goes. I was excited that we had trains. It was just a very exciting time for me. Not having to put a whole lot of effort into it, just because everything kind of lined up in a row, which makes having a train line very simple. We are going to expand our operation over here and add probably another oil refinery train, but at this current point in time I didn't think it was necessary, just for the simple fact of we weren't supplying any other towns. So we're going to let this run, and I'll be checking the numbers as they come in. But yeah, we're pretty much packed up and we're heading out the door. I did decide before we left that I was like, you know what, let's try a third train. Like I said, we're going to be monitoring the situation closely and seeing if it is able to keep up with a third train. Enough time has passed. Before we went to Denver, we just added another boat to the food run, so it was now time to kind of check on the progress and see exactly how the fuel run was going. To me, it kind of looked a little disappointing, because we're leaving a lot of money on the table as far as what was being transported across the rivers. At most of the depots, it looked like it was being short. This is future proofing, and also in an attempt to see if with that we would be able to hold more materials, more whiskey. But like I said, or I think I said, maybe I didn't, but we had been in contact with a couple of other food companies that are down here, and we're going to be using boats to truck or boat the food to the Genesis bread production. So I didn't know exactly if we would be using this area. In this shot you can kind of see the ideas that I'm going for. Doesn't mean that should be coming up here. I don't want to give too much away, but anyway, you can kind of, if you pause it, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But now we're having a nice good overview of Earth 918 and kind of just everything that we've been able to accomplish. Looking at this sky view, there is another ore pit that I need to reach out to see who exactly owns it, and see if we can't get that going to Flathead to maybe up the production level. But I was also thinking, because Bridgeport needs bread, and we have bread in the south, that maybe we could make a train run. Unfortunately, they don't build a a train car that will either carry bread or construction materials. So we'd either need a train with half cars on it, or we would have to have two separate trains doing the running. And I was kind of trying to get another port that would allow us to get paid on both ways. So that was a little unfortunate and kind of sad to see. But I was at this current point in time kind of exhausting some other options to see if I wanted to bring another town into Genesis Enterprises. I wanted to be able to start delivering somewhere else. I felt like it was we're at a good spot where it was time to grow. So I reached out to Two Sons and I was like, look, you're the company that we're going to choose to grow at this current point in time. I want to see what other productions Charleston needs as far as goods that may be delivered. We might be able to oversupply Charleston. So obviously I've said it I've said it now, but Charleston is where we're going to be delivering construction material. I also think it's a lot closer option than any of my other option towns I have. I mean, Toulouse and Lubbock, they're close, but I wanna sit there and kind of plan out the train track as far as that is concerned, because that's a lot of logistics, and I want to make sure it makes sense, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. So as we get our construction crew out there, and they kind of ran into a problem. They wanted to build a big bridge like we did with Edgar's ore pit and Collins coal mine. I was like, look, we're not going to be bringing boats past this area. So if we do have a production that does open up down here that we do feel like we need, we will then at that point train it around this area to a depot or something like that, because I didn't feel the need to go through that headache again. So as they take all their readings and whatnot to make sure that they can get the bridge pitch at the right angle and it doesn't have to necessarily go up too high, because I'm not trying to lose a whole lot of speed. We are in the process of starting to talk about doing the high speed rails, but I felt like with our cash flow situation, it was just good enough to do normal rails. Yes, I understand we got $14 million in the bank, but it was more or less like we haven't even built this line yet. We don't know what's going to come from it. We might need a big train, more cars. So I wanted to make sure we had money in the bank account to basically account for any things that we didn't see coming, as far as, you know, unforeseen problems that we may or may not have. This was when I'll let you know who we're supplying it to. This is going to be Bobby's construction crew down in Charleston. So they're a new company, obviously. So I don't know a whole lot about Bobby. I knew that he'd been kind of asking and calling for construction material, and I had been putting it off, not because he's a bad dude or anything, but just because we have to cover a huge distance with his product, and covering that distance comes with cost and stuff like that. And I was also trying to figure out how I was going to do it. Was I going to boat it to the river and then train it to the river and then boat it around and then truck it into Charleston, my bad. And I'm probably going to jack that name up a couple of times, and I don't know why. But so there was some logistic problems that that I was going through and trying to figure out what was the best way to grow my company and yeah, what was the best way financially to like kind of do this. So now that we had the money in the bank and we were obviously growing with our other customers, I was like, you know what, now's a good time to definitely put that, let's try to make some money here. Let's make Bobby's construction crew one of the biggest over here. Who knows, maybe they might end up expanding and kind of supplying us with stuff. So we finished over there. We're heading back to Bridgeport to kind of finish up some smaller details. One, I wanted to build a train depot over here. We do have one at the other end, but getting trains to jump tracks and all that kind of stuff, I was like, you know what, it's just better if we end up building one over here just in case Bobby's construction crew really amps up or jumps up, or maybe they need something else over here, and that way we can kind of expand this train station to then supply Charleston their materials, because their second product that the Charleston needs is tools. So I'm like, we got Tommy's Tool Factory that can supply you tools. It's just figuring out the logistics of getting it over there, which is kind of what our bread and butter is. I did put 2 sons in the description of the line, and that was just because at that current point in time, obviously I'm a little bit farther ahead because I'm telling you this story, but at that time it was going to be 2 Sons Construction in Charleston, but some stuff fell through, and Bobby was able to step up and all that fun stuff, but he was also waiting on license and business, creating your own business forms and whatnot. So that's the only reason why that name is in there instead of Bobby's Construction Crew, but don't worry, I will be changing it to the proper name. I wanted to build this train big because I wanted to be able to really export. Is it export the right word? I don't think the export. I don't know. I wanted to kind of build for the future, and I was kind of expecting when I first put this train on, not necessarily the first run or the second run, but maybe the third or fourth, we'd start getting up there in construction material. Unfortunately, that wasn't necessarily the case. So, and obviously Charleston doesn't need a whole lot of construction stuff right now. It doesn't need like 500 things of construction material at this current point in time. It's a small city, small town. So it wasn't like we're going to be dumping off a whole lot at this current point in time. I didn't really take that into consideration. I was like, you know what, just dump away. So supply and demand, it really kicked my butt on this one, but I'm hoping that with now supplying Bobby's Construction Crew, we will actually be able to maybe, hopefully, eventually amp up the construction need in Charleston. So that way we get paid even more. So with that being said, there's going to be a couple of, this train isn't going to be full, is pretty much what I'm saying. And don't be surprised when you see it and it's like pretty much empty. We're dealing with it, and hopefully we have a few ideas that will help end that problem and get us back into the green as far as running this line, because at this current point in time we're pretty much just breaking even. The trucks they're being paid off with delivering it into Charleston, and the load that the train is actually carrying is pretty much what is it's paying for just the train, very slowly paying for just the train. So hopefully over the next couple of months we can get this a little vamped up, and the 2 Sons construction mill maybe upgraded along with the 2 Sons quarry is kind of my hope. I am thinking and probably going to add maybe another train to this line. It's kind of hard to do that when right now the only thing, like, the trains aren't even being filled. And like I said, I think that's more due to a supply problem. Obviously, they don't need to go full ham if all they're doing is supplying Bridgeport. You know what I mean? So we're going to kind of let this grow, but don't expect a lot. Just foreshadowing there. It's going to need a little bit of time to grow, and we might even have to reach out to another city. The only issue is do we reach out to Glendale or do we reach out to the city to the west? And sorry, at this current point in time, I don't know what that city is. So we come back over to Tolosa to kind of check out the mining operation, the steel operation, and the tool problem. I mean, there's not really a problem, but I wanted to verify that everything was on the up and up. It's been a minute since we've been here. I want to say it's probably been about 3 to 5 months roughly since we've been here. Looking at the trains, I did forget to paint them, so I wanted to take care of that little injustice at this current point in time, draw them into the train depot and get those bad boys painted. We were also making money hand over fist to the point where I could now add 2 additional cars and make the cars the bigger ones that held 12 materials instead of 7. So we were really going to start hopefully amping up Edgar's ore pit. And as you just saw there, we made a little over $1 million just on that one specific load. So this was starting to be very profitable. The only issue is we're still shortchanging flathead steel mill. So it might be time to seriously reach out to the other ore mine, see who owns it, because Edgar might own that ore mine as well. Not 100% sure, but it might be a good time to reach out to them and maybe start double supplying flathead steel mill, because I don't think even making these trains longer would do what we're wanting it to do as far as keeping up with the coal industry. We are doing a good job of transporting the steel over. I think we're doing a little bit of a worse job transporting the tools in. It might be time to also seriously consider adding more to Tommy's tool factory as far as who we're delivering it to. So we're going to sit down with our contractors and see which place would be the best and what we're going to necessarily have to do in order to get some other cities, they might not be new cities, but other cities getting delivered of goods, or maybe using flathead steel mill and delivering steel to other places to get some other products. I don't think Tommy would necessarily be opposed to that. We're just going to have to kind of look around and put out some feelers on what else we can do. Yeah, there you go. The other city might be Santa Clara that we supply construction material to, because we can come right out the back of this train station and then go along the edge and then all the way to Santa Clara. The only issue with that is it's a long trip. And I don't know if having a plane would make that any better. planes are expensive. I've already kind of started looking into them to see exactly what we would be getting into, and building a runway, buying a plane, managing all that, very expensive, and that's definitely something that I'm going to want to get paid there and coming back, because that's a very expensive thing, but we'll also get paid for it, so can't be too mad on that. But like I said, that's in the future. We're not there yet. We're still got to talk to contractors and whatnot. So to close out this chapter, I feel like we've done enough in this chapter. We've been all over the map. We're going to take a ride to Charleston on our new train line and see how wonderful and beautiful the scenery is. I did like going through the bridge, and this is a very nice tunnel, and then this is a very nice bridge. Getting a little tongue-tied. So I hope you are enjoying my story so far. Please like, follow, and comment, and I will see you guys next time.